Good morning, everyone. Duncan Harris here. I'm the owner of Insurance Savings Group and the president of Bakersfield Business Partners, and we're doing another podcast today. Our guest today is Michael Fugitt. Did I pronounce that right?
Fugitt.
Fugitt?
Yep.
Okay. And you're the owner of, tell me about yourself, tell me about your business.
So I am the owner of Michael Fugitt Films. I've always been a creative guy, and so we do film and photography, and always just try to come up with a creative, outside of the box product that engages audiences for my clients.
Awesome. Perfect. So Michael and I are members of Bakersfield Business Partners, and we're a networking group. We meet every Tuesday mornings at 7:30, and we help grow each other's businesses through referrals, but also through education and through relationships. So we have outstanding members. We're highlighting all our members in this podcast. So it's Michael's turn this week. So you make films, you make commercials, videos. Mm-hmm. Tell me before we go into your business, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your family, what you're doing.
I grew up in West Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan. I was always kind of outside of the box in the sense of it wasn't rebellion to rules, but I always had the question why about everything. Mm-hmm. And I always wanted to have an answer for what I did. And so very young, I got into ministry. My mom explained the gospel to me about what Christ did on the cross. And so that really I had no idea what she was talking about. And then she explained it to me, it clicked with me, and it became a passion of mine.
Sure.
And so as a young kid,
made sense to you, brought reason and
exactly.
meaning.
Exactly. And so as a young kid, I didn't go to church. So it was kind of a weird scenario. So I had no church life, but I was brought into this real thing with God. So I would read the scripture, and I'd want to learn, but I was kind of doing it on my own. And I think with hindsight, looking back at that, it's given me a gift, kind of a mixed blessing, because I see life through the scripture, but not the man's lens that people kind of get when they go through a system all their life. So that was how my childhood started. And so the reason I bring that up is because it got me on this journey that was just this crazy. I lived in my car in the wintertime for a while when I was a teenager. Got kicked out of the house because I long story. Maybe I can get into it sometime. It's actually a good story, but it'll take too much time for this.
If we have time at the end, we're going to go back to this.
Okay, we can. If we have time at the end, we
can.
But it got me on this journey where it eventually led to me being a full-time musician. Mm-hmm. And that kind of led to, after 17 years of that, to what I'm doing now. And there's a big overlap of how the creativity end of it works for both filmmaking and music. So I've always kind of been on the creative realm and outside of the box, and people on paper, my life hasn't always made sense, but it's always been an amazing journey with a lot of really cool.
Makes sense
cool
to
stories.
you?
Not always.
No,
with hindsight,
crazy. It's been a crazy ride.
It's been a good ride, but it doesn't always make sense. With hindsight, it's always made sense, though. You can always see how it's all come together.
Yeah. So talk about that. You're obviously a creative person. You're looking for deeper meaning in things, it seems like, from a very young age.
Yep.
So, talk about the overlap, being a musician to making videos. Tell me what's going on there.
So with music, I toured full-time 17 years, and most of my audiences were middle school, high school aged. Mm-hmm. And I growing up, I'm an introvert now, but I was super shy. There's a distinction there as a kid. And so I got up on stages, and that was so outside of my comfort zone at first, but I learned different techniques of how to engage the audiences. So now I typically had an hour-long set with middle school or high schoolers, and I had to find a way to keep these people engaged. And it was a trial and error.
Sure.
And so you would bomb, and you would say, okay, how do I fix that? How do I make that better next time? Because you don't want to bomb again. Right. And so you go through all these different processes, and you build the flow of the energy of the night, and you go high energy and then bring it down for a second, and then talk to them about something and bring it up, and you have lights. And so that really translates well with, at least for me, into film. is because you're always thinking about engagement. You're always thinking, how do I keep the viewer engaged? And there's people who come to me, clients with so many different...
Almost like an emotional engagement, really.
Absolutely, an emotional engagement. That's what it's all about with what I do. That's the question I'm always thinking in my head. Whether it's, an amazing story we're telling for some, whatever it is, someone's wedding, or even something boring, generally boring for a business, I'm still always thinking
like an insurance commercial.
Like an insurance commercial.
Yeah,
I'm always thinking, how do I keep that engaging? So, yeah, I mean that's kind of the overlap with music, and that's the base I had for so many years, is how do I engage these middle school, high schoolers? Now the audience has changed to my client's audience. How do I keep them engaged?
Very cool. You married? You have kids?
I am. Been married since 2011. My wife Deborah, and I have 3 kids, a girl and 2 boys.
Full-time work there.
It is.
So, how did you make that transition from music, to video?
So I was touring, and my wife and I were living in Lincoln, Nebraska at the time.
In your car or in a house?
We had transitioned from the car to the house at that point.
Oh, that's a big step. Cool.
Fortunately, I was able to do that before I got married. But we were living in a home, and we were touring actually out in California, and connected with a guy, a promoter that I really hit it off with. Like, we became close friends instantly, did like 5 things with him. And he said, hey, there's this like part-time job out in California. And it didn't make sense to me. I wasn't super interested, but I wanted to take some time to actually slowly think about it and talk to my wife. And as we talked about it more, we prayed about it more, we just more and more sensed that that's the direction we were to go in. So we came out here, and we thought, hey, 2 months out of the year already, while we're living in Nebraska, we're touring in California anyways. So maybe it makes sense to have a base out here instead of traveling all the way in between. So we came out here, and that job was a media job, a part-time media job. And so I started doing some video work for that. I'd already done a little bit of video work for my own music business. And so once I got out here and I did a little bit of media work for the company that actually was the church I was working for.
Yeah.
I just said, hey, like, I like this, but I want to do my own stuff. I don't want to always just be within the box of what the church is doing. I want to do my own. So, the first actual like thing I did was a wedding for a friend I had, and I just offered to do it free to get my feet wet. And it was crazy.
And it went from there.
It did, and that's a kind of a little bit of a rough starting point, weddings. But hey, it
Those
worked.
people are still married, though, right?
They are still married.
Oh, well, see,
they are still.
They
married.
probably watched that wedding video and
It keeps them going.
Renew their vows. Yeah. So, what year did you actually switch over to video? When was that?
Officially, my business started in 2017.
Okay.
But before that, I was messing around with stuff.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, so what, 4 years or something? And I mean, I feel like you're cranking now, full time almost with it. So,
Yep.
You've made some videos for me. We should just get that out of the way.
Yep.
Always done a good job.
Thank you.
So, tell me more about your business, like who your clients are, like what you're looking for, maybe even like an ideal client. Like, this is what I do, and this would be an ideal client for me.
So most of my clients are businesses, like putting out commercials or any sort of, social media videos, things like that. Real estate agents for both video and photography. And then also brides to be, just for
The
wedding films.
Yep.
Those are my main clients. Also recently did a music video. I really like the creative end of that. So I guess for my ideal client would probably be a business that understands the power of video within their marketing on social media, how that has a really good return on investment, and wants to do something creative and tell a story and get people's attention.
Well, I mean, talk about that. There's obviously a million small businesses out there,
Yep.
and they're marketing in all these different ways. I mean, talk about the power of video. I mean, kind of, maybe you can give a testimonial for one of your clients or whatever, but talk about what you do and how it helps your business clients.
Yeah. So people come to me with they know they want to put something out. Sometimes they have a general idea of where they want it to go. And oftentimes I'm able to take their idea and say, okay, let's use this as a foundation, what you've come up with. And I'm able to dig deeper and come up with more storyline and things that allow the flow of the story to continue and to go deeper and to, I'm trying to think of an example. I've done a lot. So recently I did a video for a music school, an online music school. And they came to me, they said, hey, we want to just make it clear to our clients that we're focusing on online music. Like online music lessons is what we're trying to do. Maybe you could have like the camera, go through the computer screen and then you're in real life. And I just took that idea and I thought about it and I'm like, okay, so my question I always ask when a client comes to me, especially a business, is what is the emotional value of what they're trying to do? And as I thought about it, I was like, he gave me like several references and they're all pretty good in different ways. And some of them weren't as good on the production end, and others were really like emotional. They pull on the heartstrings, the production isn't as good. And I started thinking about it and I was like, okay, I see which one is best as a filmmaker that I think is best on a production level. And I'm like, that's the one I'm drawn to. But then let me think about this as a dad sending my kid to a music school. And I started thinking about it from that end. And I'm like, well, I want the thing that pulls on my heartstrings. So the process in my head for this particular client was, okay, how do I pull on his potential client's heartstrings? And I thought, let's tell the story of a child who gets a violin as a present. They're into music, they're so excited, but they can't play the thing and they're horrible at it. And what do? And then in the end, they're at a recital, blowing the crowd away. And so that's kind of what goes through my mind. So how do we succinctly tell that story? And so we take it from, hey, we want to share about the fact that we do license. Maybe you can go through the screen and show to here's a story that you can use that will actually pull on people's heartstrings and make them be drawn to your brand.
I'm a current client of yours. All your videos are so emotionally compelling. I mean, you have one you did for a trophy store. I mean, gosh, that one, if you watch it, that will make you cry. And I've seen the music video commercial you're talking about. And even like for me, so like I deal with insurance, which is a very kind of abstract, obscure financial numbers thing. And people can't connect to that emotionally. And you were able to put together some videos for me, testimonials, but really touch on how these financial products had an emotional impact for my clients, So I just love that people can come to you as a business, can come to you with a very objective idea. We do online music training, which actually sounds very boring and you're like, yeah, whatever. But when you watch the video, you really reach the heart of every father or mother that watches that video. And now there's like a connection and people can kind of envision their child like, oh, wow, I'd be so proud if my child would. And so, anyhow, I just think that you add so much value, or maybe you just present the value really.
Yeah, the value,
the emotional value. You're just presenting it in such a great way for these companies.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the value is already there, even in things like you're talking about. You do insurance, and the value is there. It's just a matter of getting to it and how do you communicate it. And always, like I said, always thinking about that question: what's the emotional value? That's what I did with the trophy shop. Okay. What the emotional value of a trophy shop isn't the storefront.
Yeah, the trophies.
It's the story of what it took to get that trophy. The years of practice, the years of fathers and sons and mothers like going to the games, and that's the emotional value of that trophy. And it's like, just take the time. I have to take the time to like step away and think through that process and figure out what's compelling and what pulls on your heart about that brand.
So, I mean, it may be along these same lines, but what do you think sets you apart from some of your competition? I know there's other people that do similar things to you.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think really sets you apart, makes you different?
I think with film, there's the technical aspect that is a must-have. You have to have that. You have to be able to turn on the camera and focus and all those things. And some companies will come and set up the camera and they'll have a clean product. But yeah, I think the difference for me really comes down to the creative end of it. And that's not to say there aren't other great creatives. There are. I think one thing that really helps me, and it already has been touched on, to kind of stand out is my history with music. Like I've said, like I've been wired for so many years before filmmaking was even a thought in my mind to think along those lines, to always think, how does how does song 1 play into song 2, play into song 3, so that we can have a good ending and people are not tired, but they're still with me and they're ready for more, and you cut it off. That's always been wired in my head. So now it's like, how does this shot play into that shot?
Yeah.
That's so I would say that's probably one of the biggest things. And my passion, honestly, like, is the thing that, like, as a musician, the thing that stood out to me was you want to have a good show, engage the audience, you want them to be with you, and that was more valuable than whatever money I was going to get from it. Obviously, it's a career, and that's important, but it's the same thing with this. Like, the number one thing for me that...
So it was just purely the human interaction.
Yeah.
When you're up there on stage, like, you were just... the connection,
right?
The energy that you had and shared with your, I don't know, your clients or your audience.
Yeah. And now it's the same.
Same thing.
It's like more, obviously it's my job. So money, I have to pay for my bills.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
And it is important, but even higher than that in my mind is I want them to be happy with the product.
Yeah.
Like, that's number one on my list.
That's great. Well, and you got to buy all this expensive camera equipment. Holy cow. So, I mean, talk about some of your equipment. You've been investing for quite a while, and you've got quite the set, but, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, if you're into filmmaking or photography,
I mean, you don't have to dive into the technical aspects, but maybe just say, hey, look, I've got enough equipment. I could do this or that.
Yeah. We can do like a 4-camera shoot. And so, like, that's important when you have like several things, but live events, weddings. So, you can shoot one-on-one, but if someone stands up in front of the camera, that it's all over for that one.
Yeah,
so
you lost it. Yeah.
So for instance, that's probably the best example to share about how that could potentially be useful. So we can get a shot for the ceremony. We can get a shot from the back, a wide angle shot of the whole thing. We can get a close-up of the bride, a close-up of the groom, and then I can have a separate camera on a gimbal, which is a stabilizer, and just move around and get creative shots, and then you can patch all that together. So so that's what we can do with that. We have, lighting set up so that we can come into whatever your location is and have you still look nice, which with filmmaking and photography, lighting is super, super key. Like I've shared it in our group before that you could have a cell phone with great lighting and versus a cinema camera with poor lighting, and the cell phone's going to outshine the cinema camera. So those are important tools to have.
So that part of your job is super technical. I mean, you're coming out and you're taking measurements and making sure the sound's right and the lighting and the shadows and everything. Yep.
Yeah, you have to think about all those things, like sound setup. That's another one. The audio, you mentioned that. Yep. But it's technical thinking. So when I show up to like film an interview, I'm always thinking, okay, what's the framing? You don't just set it up at random. You think about those things. What's the framing? Like there's in film and photography, there's this concept called leading lines. Is there any lines that are pointing to the subject's head that like just put all the focus on your subject? So we're always thinking about things like that.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, no, it's a lot more detailed and nuanced than people think. But that's what it takes to put a good product together. So you work with a lot of companies, churches, bridezillas, maybe. Like what advice would you give to your clients, or like what common mistakes do you think you see your clients making? Like if you could give them helpful hints and tips.
If, as far as like shooting their own stuff, do it yourself.
Well, not maybe do it yourself, but in the ideas that they have, or maybe, just do they make certain mistakes that are easily fixable, or like they could have you do certain things that would just enhance their their outcome better. I don't
So
know.
as far as me being involved with them, or as far as like if they were to shoot something, what are some common tips?
Well, let's do two. Like, let's say small business owner, just wants to post a weekly thing on Facebook or something.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just gonna hold his cell phone in his hand and.
Yep. Yeah, I think.
What's like some basic tips that would instantly enhance that?
So first of all, know where you're going to put that video for your aspect ratio. Some social media platforms, horizontal or vertical is going to work better. A lot of them, horizontal is going to work better.
Okay.
So if you're putting it, depending on where you're going to put it, know like which way you want to hold the camera.
Okay.
Because there's, it's a no one wants to look through that prison cell if the format isn't right for it.
Right.
So that'd be the first tip. And the second tip is lighting. You can buy cheap lights that still work well. If you don't have lights, sit next to a window where there's soft light on your face. Like those are really simple things. You can get great light that way. So if you have the lighting and you have the camera in the right position, horizontal or vertical, depending on where you're putting it. And then the other thing would be audio. You don't want to be a mile away. If you're shooting on your cell phone, you don't want to be a mile away where it's bouncing off the walls. You want to have crisp, clean, as best as you can. And usually with cell phones, if you're close and there's not a lot of noise in the background, you can get a decent enough sound for that.
Yeah.
So.
Let's talk about those clients that they want to make edits or revisions that you don't agree with or they don't trust you. I mean, how do you listen? It comes up in every line of work. The professional has got to negotiate with the client sometimes and maybe educate them on why what they want may not work out long term.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, but tell me, how you handle that and like what you see from people sometimes.
So I think people hire me to either create a vision for them or take part of their vision and represent it well. And so they come to me for that. And I feel as though what I can offer them is an eye that most of them don't have. Some people have a great eye, but most people, they're focused on their business. I'm focused on mine. So I can offer them, hey, like I said earlier, song 1 leads into song 2. Well, clip 1, how does they may want to have this something highlighted here, and the concept is good, but it has to flow too. There's a bigger picture. So I offer them that. So the way I usually handle that though is I try to offer them, like I try to educate them on why I make this choice and why it makes sense to go this way, and then give them a big picture. I'm like, I can do it this other way, but here's what you need to know if I do it this way. Here's why it's not going to work as well for your audience. But obviously it's their project. So, there's a line that can be drawn. But in general, with a lot of things, I'm willing to cater to a lot of their wishes, but I try to educate them as to, why I would do this or why I would do that, so that they can have a complete understanding of the process and how it's going to affect them and their business.
Anything new and exciting in like in your market, in your industry, new technology, new things going on?
They actually just released some new, just like last week, some new gear that's kind of outside.
That's why I wrote this question.
Yeah, I knew about it, right?
Oh, yeah, I knew.
You knew what DJI was putting out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so some new like outside of the box like cinema camera gear that like there's a few releases. There's a new Sony camera that's pretty exciting, but I don't think most of the audience would be excited about it that's listening to this. But for me, it's very exciting.
But that's going to translate into what for your clients?
It's going to translate into better quality. And then probably more efficiency on my end.
Sure.
And then the other gear, it's nothing I plan on buying, but it's exciting just to see is, hey, that's a cool tool. And eventually it'll evolve into something that will probably down the road make sense for me eventually. But yeah, so it's always fun to look at that kind of stuff. But
yeah. And I think there's one aspect of your job we haven't talked about, and that's editing. So you obviously go out, you do all the technical work of shooting and recording. Obviously that's preceded by a story that you create with the client, and you kind of create an emotional pitch. But once you put that all together and you get all this stuff, then you have to go and edit it. Talk about that process. And you told me in the past you seem to enjoy that.
Yeah. I hear from a lot of filmmakers that editing is the unnecessary or the necessary evil, I should say. I don't look at it that way. Like, I enjoy both filming and editing, but I enjoy editing even more than filming. And I think that's maybe that's the introvert.
You're so introverted.
Yeah, I get away and I get lost in the project as opposed to like, that's my thing. I can play around and make things happen there. But yeah, typically the process is like, I have to get specific to maybe explain this. So I'll use the wedding example again. You shoot a wedding, you go all day. You're there for 10 hours filming just everything and starting and stopping and filming all these different things. And then you take that back and you have 10 hours of footage, but you have like 4 cameras with all the stuff on it. And you have to sort all that. You have to lay that. So we lay it all in a timeline. And then I just go through it. It's a super long process. You go through all the footage and you cut out the little pieces that this clip could work, this clip could work, this clip could work. You get rid of all the rest, and then you take that section of the clips that could work and you cut those down further. This could work. Because you have to take 10 hours of footage from 4 cameras and turn it into a 5-minute video. And so it's always finding the right, like, here's an awesome thing, but it doesn't, it looks like the shot is a great shot, but it doesn't make the cut because it doesn't, again, fit the flow of the story. So you do that, and then you add editing is another really key part of editing, is finding the right song choice. Music, you can make people feel things, and so that's always huge. And really, even beyond music, sound design, having different sound effects in different places, that like audio with film is as important as the visuals. So you could have amazing footage and horrible audio, and people would be like, you would lose them, even though the footage is, you could have Hollywood footage. Flip that around, and you could have so-so footage with great audio, and they're still engaged. So the sound is important too.
You guys catch a lot of, is it B-roll stuff?
Yeah.
That really fills in. It's kind of makes those wedding videos beautiful.
Oh yeah. So you don't just show
all the details of that go into a wedding. The colors and the table settings and the flowers and everything. Yeah,
and that's another thing. Like, on top of that whole process, you mentioned colors. You do all that. You do everything I explained, and then you color grade, and that's a whole nother. Because when you shoot on your cell phone, it's typically in auto mode where you just get the bright poppy colors right out of the camera. When you shoot for like what we do, you shoot in a very flat profile. So if I show you something that I shoot right out of the camera, it looks gray and just really flat and not very appealing. But that allows you to pull the colors without losing the details. So it just gives you more flexibility with color. So that's a whole nother part of the process.
Interesting. So what do you think is the best part about your job?
I really I've made a lot of ongoing relationships, friendships with clients that continue. And it's not, I really enjoy the fact that a great majority of the time, it doesn't feel like a sales pitch. It feels like I'm able to step aside with these people, step alongside them, and really offer them help. It's from the position of being able to benefit their business and benefit what they do, and it feels that way. It doesn't feel like a sales. Before, I have had times in my life where, with my businesses, that it's felt like a pushy sales thing, and this is like, I feel like I'm helping a friend in a business relationship more times than not, and I love that part of it.
That's good. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that you're a people person. I think a lot of I want to go back to why you're here. A lot of the people in our Bakersfield Business Partners chapters are, and that's what drives them, is truly what you said, like the connection they have with their clients, the relationships they build. So you've been a member of our group of Bakersfield Business Partners for how long? How many years has it been?
I believe 3 going on 4.
Okay, yeah. Tell me a little bit about what that's meant for you and for your business, how it's helped maybe you both grow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's helped a lot. So I initially was invited by Marvin Bush, and we go to the same.
Listen, we'll edit his name out.
Okay.
If you're embarrassed, we'll edit his name out.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So we go to the same church, and when I was first starting out, I was like, hey, like I knew he's a real estate agent in the group, and I knew he's a real estate agent, and I was like, I want to start doing some real estate videos, and I said, hey, can I just do a free one for you sometime? He's like, yeah, if you'll take pictures. And at that point, I was like, I don't even take pictures. I do now, but at that point, I was like, I'll try. He's like, yeah, whatever, go ahead. And I did, and he's like, he kept hiring me to do pictures.
Yeah.
But he kept saying, hey, there's this group, come check it out. And I'm an introvert, but at the same time, I'm like, I see value in that, and I want to do things. I think because I'm an introvert, it actually is better for me because it provides a structure to networking that, as an introvert, I'm not going to be driven to just go to this thing or that thing. Like it provides an outlet for that. So I went and checked it out a couple times, and it seemed like it made sense. I didn't go into it with this vision that, like, yeah, I'm just instantly these people are going to make me rich instantly. Right. It was more, in my mind, it was, how do I build my business? Like this is a tool to build my business, but it's also a tool to connect with people in different industries that I wouldn't otherwise ever have the opportunity to connect with, and learn from, and people who are, I'm really creative minded, but people who are more business minded than me. And I know that's going to be super valuable to me, and I hopefully can pour into them. And that was my mindset of it. And so I didn't have this expectation, really a financial expectation from it. And over the years, it's definitely built. Like the financial end of it has built good as I've got to know more people, and I feel like I feel like on my end of it, my ability to give is building as well. Good. So, yeah. Good.
For those that don't know, for our listeners, we meet every week, and each member of the group is in a different industry or classification. So we have one real estate agent, one insurance guy, one, mortgage person. And then every week we go around the room, and each person gives a 60-second commercial. And so that's what Michael's talking about, is like that's the structure of the meeting, is every week we're trying to educate the other members on our business. What's a good referral for us? How we help our clients. Here's a helpful hint this week. Here's what's going on in our industry. Kind of the questions that we go over in this interview. And then, of course, we have 15, 20 minutes of just open networking where you can kind of talk to people and meet with people. And then we also encourage one-to-one meetings. So I think that's what really sets all of us apart is, I'm an insurance agent, he's a filmmaker, but we get educated every week on what's going on in the real estate world, what's going on with taxes, what's going on with mortgages, insurance, just go down the line, investments, we got carpet cleaners, everyone. And it just makes us more well-rounded. We're better educated when it comes to business. We can relate to people better.
Absolutely.
And so, but you've definitely seen that it's helped your business grow. I mean,
yes.
Any numbers, percentages you can throw out?
I started the group really early on in my business, like super, super early on. Yeah. And so the first year I grew a bunch, and I don't even think the first year was heavily Bakersfield Business Partners related, the growth. But after that, it has been. So like from 2019 to 2020, the first pandemic year, yeah. I think I went up like 38%. And this year I'm going up again.
It's going to go up again.
Not 38%, but it's going to go up.
Yeah, but that's fantastic. And that's also the strength of our group is I don't want to say all our members, but most of our members survived and some even thrived during the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah.
I give a lot of credit to our group for the structure and the activity and the commitment. People were still coming every week and educating and giving referrals. And it helped a lot of people even grow through the pandemic, which was so great.
Absolutely.
So anything else? Do we miss anything before we close it out?
No, I don't think so.
Anything else you want to say? There's so much going on. I could tell, so much deep thought. So, well, thank you so much, man. It's
Yeah.
always fun. It's always
Thank you.
a pleasure talking to you. You do
Likewise.
great work. We're so glad to have you in the group. And again, my name is Duncan. I'm the president of Bakersfield Business Partners. We meet every week on Tuesday mornings. Come check us out. We hope to see you soon, but otherwise, we'll catch you on the next podcast. So have a good week.